What's up, guys? It's Christian here, and welcome back to the Adventures of an AvGeek, where today we are reacting to a video about the Boeing 767. The Boeing 767, the first wide-body twin jet. History and description. This is by Skyships Eng, and this video was made 5 years ago. So I wanted to find a video about the Boeing 767 because having recently reacted to a video about the Boeing 757, I was very intrigued about what the concept of that plane was and why Boeing wanted to make that and what kind of success that they found with it. And so today I wanted to learn about the Boeing 767 as I recently flew that plane in March. It was the first time that I had flown on a wide body aircraft since I became an aviation enthusiast, and it was a tremendous experience, to be honest with you guys. And I have a video documenting my experiences on that plane that I will link in the description below. And yeah, I'm really curious to learn, so let's get into it.
Hello, aviation fans. Sky here, and it seems we have run out of single-aisle Boeing aircraft, as well as the 3-engine and 4-engine planes too. Yes, only 2-engine wide-body airliners await, and the first one is already on our doorstep. Boeing 767, twin-engine wide-body airliner developed by Boeing in the early 1980s. Boeing's first project in this class. I already talked about it partially when I told about the 757. Now it's time to take a closer look. Let's fly. On February 9, 1969, the brand new Boeing 747 made its maiden flight. Yes, now I'm starting all the stories from here. The plane became not just the largest aircraft in the world, but also the founder of a new class, wide-body airliners. This name was given to the planes with fuselages that were much wider than before, and cabins that are of course visually distinguished by the presence of two aisles.
Yeah.
Therefore, these planes are also often called twin-aisle airliners. Well, the Jumbo founded the class, but it wasn't on its own for long. The competitors quickly came to the market. McDonnell Douglas DC-10, Lockheed L-1011 TriStar, Airbus A300, and Ilyushin Il-86. All of them were smaller than the flagship of Boeing, but they were also showing very decent performance. Among them, we have to mark one model, A300, the first plane of the newly baked European Airbus. The new plane was, let's just say, not perfect, but it had a feature that compensated all the problems. It was the only twin-engine airliner in the class. Due to this fact, it was not just more economical, but also cheaper to maintain. The aircraft engine is not an easiest device in the world. Therefore, despite the fact that the A300 was inferior to competitors in a number of important indicators, the aircraft was still very much in demand. The potential of twin-engine wide-body planes was obvious. Naturally, such a trump card could not have passed by the company from Seattle. Already in 1972, Boeing initiated a research program, the mission of which was to explore the possibility of creating a new wide-body twin-engine airliner. This program received the name 7X7. However, 7X7 had a problem. Boeing had spent so much resources on the 747 that there was almost no money left for new projects. Because of this,
I don't know I don't know where I saw it. I think it was on TV, but there might be a YouTube video about it. I definitely recommend you guys learn about the story of the Boeing 747. If I remember correctly, Boeing almost, if the 747 failed, then there was going to be no more Boeing. It was amazing how they went they took such a big risk on such a big project, and it paid off tremendously. Yeah, really recommend you guys check that out.
the company decided to cooperate with foreigners. New friends were found in Italian Air Italia, now a part of Alenia Aeronautica, and the Japanese conglomerate CTDC, Civil Transport Development Corporation. The new partners shared risks and partially financed the program. And in exchange, they were to become Boeing's major contractors in the production chain of future airliners. Initially, it was assumed that the Boeing 7X7 will be able to work with short runways and perform medium-range flights. However,
Nice.
customers did not support this concept. Airports were actively being modernized, and the possibility of working on short runways was no longer that critical. But the
Interesting.
airlines wanted much more range. 7X7 had to be a long-range transport. By
Hmm.
1976, the 7X7 concept had been approved. The
Nice.
twin-engine options were confirmed as basic versions, retaining the initial scheme very similar to the European model A300. It was the best way. The new engines were already quite effective, and the growing reliability gradually eliminated the fear of flying on a twin-engine aircraft. In
Yeah.
1978,
Yeah, because that's another thing too, is that with the it's amazing, that like with the Airbus A300 and the Boeing 767, there was like, a fear of, flying twin engine aircraft over oceans, whether that be Atlantic or Pacific or whatever. Like, I remember watching a whole video that Wendover Productions made about how we now have like a bunch of aircraft that are twin engine that can fly over oceans and do it well. And it used to not be this way, and it used to be a situation in which we didn't think that this would ever be this way. The video opened with a quote from some guy, who works for the FAA or something. I forget, but he said it'll be a cold day in hell before I let twins fly over the Atlantic, right? And now look where we are. Super crazy, because the thing was that these planes, they needed to be at the time around the 70s, maybe a little bit in the 80s, but not much. They needed to be an hour away from a diversion airport, which that you can't do if you're flying over the ocean. And so truly amazing how we've been able to develop, the technology where I think in that same video, Wendover mentioned that the Airbus A350 can go like 5 or 6 hours without a diversion airport if some issue were to happen over the ocean or anywhere.
Boeing officially announced the expansion of the production site in Everett, where, in addition to the 747 model, a new plane would be produced, which
Hmm.
received the index 767. Three models were planned at once: 190-seat 767-100, 210-seat 767-200, as well as, surprisingly, the bigger three-engine 767 MRLR.
That's crazy. They almost made it a trijet. Wow. I I love trijets, and that would have been cool to see that.
Accommodating 200 passengers and flying for long distances.
Wait
At
a
the
minute.
same
I got distracted by what, I don't know what variant that was.
10-seat 767-200, as well as, surprisingly, the bigger three-engine 767 MRLR, accommodating 200 passengers and flying for long distances.
Wow.
At the same time, the 767 MRLR version was also proposed to be selected as a separate model, which should have been called Boeing 777, delivered to the market as a competitor to the Douglas and Lockheed planes.
Wow.
Project 767 was officially launched in 1978, when several major U.S. airlines ordered the future plane. Model 100 was not in demand. Its capacity was too close to Boeing 757, which turned
Mm,
out to be more preferable. At the
yeah.
same time, the concept of three-engine wide-body airliner was abandoned. The first customers were offered airliners with two optional engines: Pratt Whitney JT9D, already applied on Boeing 747, and General Electric CF6, the civilian version of the TF39 engines, created
Mm,
for the military transport Galaxy C5.
mm,
The wing of the aircraft was created in parallel with the wing of the Boeing 757 and used all the technologies obtained during the creation of the Boeing 747. Due to the improvement in design, it was possible to create a very aerodynamically effective wing. Boeing 767-200 was supposed to have a range of about 3,800 miles and fly both transcontinental and transatlantic routes. The fuselage of the Boeing 767 was completely new. Narrow-body airplanes shouldn't even be considered here. They are, well, too narrow. But the width of the Boeing 747 fuselage for an aircraft of smaller dimensions was excessive.
mm.
Aerodynamic resistance significantly worsened the performance. To improve flight characteristics, the fuselage received a width of just over 5 meters. the smallest option in the class. The width of the A300 fuselage was 5.64 meters, and the
Mm.
747 fuselage reached 6.5 meters. On one hand, this of course improved aerodynamics, but the A300 fuselage is half a meter wider for a reason. It turned out that the 767 didn't have enough space for the standard LD3 cargo containers. The company had to develop smaller containers, now known as LD2. The same issue touched the cabin. It is more narrow than the analogs, although it still remains rather large and, of course, has two aisles. The cabin of economy class is most often equipped according to the layout of 7 seats in a row, 2 plus 3 plus 2.
Mm.
And business class cabin is equipped according to the scheme of 6 seats in a row, 2 plus 2 plus 2. This was even better. Most of the passengers were located either next to the aisle or next to the window. There's only one inconvenient central row, and it is usually left empty, unless the plane is fully packed. Boeing 767 was the first wide-body aircraft originally created with a glass cockpit and manned by a two-man crew. The curious thing is, the airlines didn't support such innovations, so the
Mm.
company offered a cabin for 3 crew members as an option.
Hmm.
This strange situation lasted for a couple of years, until a special government commission conducted a study and proved that 2 people are fully capable of controlling the plane. The
Nice.
similar situation happened to the Boeing 757,
Oh
although
wow.
there, the basic equipment was designed for 3 pilots, and the 2 pilot scheme was offered as an option.
Hmm.
Eventually, over the course of several years, the cockpits of both airliners, originally very close, were unified almost completely. Crews could easily switch from model to model with minimal retraining, although the
Nice.
pilots claimed that the heavier 767 was much more manageable, while the junior 757 turned out a bit less obedient.
Wow.
Boeing 767 became the first experience of the company in the wide international production cooperation. A complex communications and logistics network was created, which had to connect the company's main plants with suppliers, primarily from Japan and Italy.
Hmm.
Wings and fuselages were made on the Boeing factories, the aerodynamic control elements produced by Italian Aeritalia. The slats were manufactured by the Boeing Vertol division.
Hmm.
Japanese CTDC consolidated several manufacturers: Fuji Heavy Industries, Kawasaki Heavy Industries, and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. However, the
Nice.
Japanese are not particularly creative in their corporate names, are they? Actually, the legacy of this cooperation is still working. Many details for Dreamliners are being made in Japan.
Oh
The
wow.
Boeing 767 200 prototype, with the original number N767BA, equipped with JT9D engines, passed the rollout ceremony in late summer 1981. In
Nice.
September of that year, the aircraft made its maiden test flight. At that time, Boeing already had a portfolio of orders for 173 airliners from 17 operators. 6 prototypes at once were participating in the test program. 4 of them were equipped with GT9D engines, other 2 with CF6. Already
Nice.
by September 1982, airliners with both power plants were certified in the US and UK.
Oh wow.
After all the difficulties and delays with the Boeing 747, the introduction of a new model seemed incredibly smooth. The
Hmm.
first operators loved the economy, the cabin comfort, and the low noise levels. The demand for Boeing 767 grew even more when the international regulators expanded the ETOPS standards, allowing
Yeah,
dual
that's what I was
engine
talking
planes
about.
to fly.
That's what I was talking about. Whenever it was, it's ETOP standards that, say that you have to be within 1 hour of a diversion airport. And so, yeah, the Boeing 767 exceeded that, and that's really good.
The international regulators expanded the ETOPS standards, allowing dual engine planes to fly more routes over the Atlantic.
Yep.
These changes were implemented exactly thanks to the appearance of the Boeing 767 and Airbus A300, which proved to be highly reliable.
Mm-hmm.
High demand for airliners allowed Boeing to immediately announce the 767 200ER model with an increased
Mm.
flight range. The weight of the aircraft increased due to the increase of the amount of fuel. Thus, the
Ah.
range reached 6,400 miles. Further development of the aircraft was an increase of capacity. In 1983, Boeing began the work on the model 767 300 with an extended fuselage, as well as its version 300ER with increased range. Both aircraft could accommodate 350 people, and the ER model flew for a distance of up to 6,000 miles. This
Wow.
aircraft became very popular. Nearly 70% of all 767s were the 300 and 300ER models.
Nice.
Plans to increase the aircraft performance were not limited by the Dash 300 models. In the mid 1980s, there were ideas of creating an even longer aircraft, as well as the option with a second deck, which was nicknamed the Hunchback of Mukilteo. The second
Wow.
deck was planned to be placed in the rear section of the plane.
Hang on. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Would that work? I look at that and I'm like, oh my gosh, that might be challenging to have an upper deck in the rear of the plane. Of course, it's innovative, because the 747 had a hump in the front of the plane. But wow, it's actually amazing. I didn't know that there were, like, Boeing had these types of ideas, like a three-engine 767, one with a hump in the back of the plane. Like, it's crazy all the ideas that they threw at the wall, and that, of course, is what you have to do in engineering or any creative field, is throw all your ideas at the wall, see what sticks, see what's the best. But wow, I imagine if we saw an aircraft like this, that would have been crazy.
Was planned to be placed in the rear section of the plane. Mukilteo is a small town not far from the Boeing plant in Everett. In the future, the 767-X project was launched, the aircraft with an enlarged wing and fuselage. But this project was cancelled in favor of the idea to create an entirely new airliner, the future Boeing 777.
Good choice.
Being the second largest
Good choice. The Boeing 777 has proved to be extremely successful and extremely beloved in aviation. It is my second favorite plane, and as first is the Boeing 747.
Boeing airliner, the 767 was very popular. Also, with the ability to fly over long distances, it remained fairly light for a wide-body aircraft, allowing it to fly to regional airports. And airlines could reduce the number of transfers without using the overloaded hubs. In 1993, Boeing received the first orders for freighter versions. Deliveries of the cargo plane Boeing 767-300F began in 1995. At the same time, when the company was already engaged in the creation of the future Boeing 777, it refused to create its smaller version. Instead, it was decided to slightly increase the junior model's capacity. That way, the Boeing 767 400 appeared, first joining the Delta Airlines park in 1997.
By the way, I had been waiting for them to mention the Boeing 767-400, because that is the plane, that is the variant of the Boeing 767 that I flew. And tremendous aircraft, tremendous.
1997. By the beginning of the 21st century, the sky had seen more than 900 767 planes.
Wow.
However, deliveries began to decline. In 2001, Boeing stopped the work on the long-haul 767 400 ERX in favor of the Sonic Cruiser project, which in
Wow.
terms of capacity was smaller. But the Sonic Cruiser was close too, and the
By
place
the way, I want to ask you guys something. So, I think it's Boom Supersonic is the company. They are making a supersonic aircraft that is, similar to the Concorde, has the ability to fly from London to New York in, I think it was like 3 hours compared to the normal six or so. Like, what do you guys think about supersonic aircraft? Do you think that it's good for the aviation industry? Do you think it's going to be amazing, or do you think it's going to be a flop? Love to discuss that with you guys in the comments, as well as anything about the Boeing 767. Whatever you think, drop it in the comments. Let's have a conversation.
Of the company's main project was occupied by 7E7. The performance of the Project 7E7 was very impressive, and the airlines began to actively order it. By the time of the market entry, the brand new Boeing 787 Dreamliner already had orders for hundreds of units. However, the difficulties in development and production led to serious shifts in supply. As a result, the Boeing 767 remained in demand for some time. The aircraft still has a portfolio of orders for several dozens of cargo aircraft, as well as the KC-46 aerial tankers. At the end of 2016, there were 742 Boeing 767s of various modifications in operation, mainly by American and Japanese operators. And now, about the safety. By 2017, the Boeing 767 was involved in 45 aviation accidents, 16 of which resulted in serious hull damage. As a result of 6 air crashes and 3 hijackings, 851 people died. Again, the
Wow.
most serious disaster, just like with the 757s, was the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks.
Mm.
2 planes were captured by terrorists and attacked the towers of the World Trade Center in New York. As a result of this attack, 157 passengers and crew members of the aircraft and about 2,600 people were killed in the collapsed skyscrapers. Although the plane has an interesting story with a happy ending that actually showed its very good flight capabilities. In 1983, there was an incident with the Air Canada plane. In the middle of the flight, the plane suddenly ran out of fuel.
Oh
Both
yeah, I
engines
remember
stopped
this.
and the onboard systems were working at the minimum. Nevertheless, the liner didn't fall. Aerodynamics didn't fail. The plane managed to glide, losing only 1.5 kilometers of altitude per every 20 kilometers of flight. Eventually, the aircraft landed on the runway of the closed Canadian Air Force Base Gimli, earning the nickname Gimli Glider. One of the
Wow.
engines and the nose section were damaged, but not one of 69 people on board got hurt.
Wow.
Moreover, in just 2 days, the plane was repaired, and then it left on its own. After running
Yeah, because the story with this one, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, either Canada made a switch between metric systems or they just it was just an accident that they measured how much fuel they needed for the flight in I think they measured it in pounds rather than kilograms or something like that. But yeah, they measured it wrong, and that's why they ran out of fuel in the middle of the air. And yeah, it's absolutely amazing that they were able to land this plane.
out of fuel, engines failure, and emergency landing on an abandoned airstrip. Now that is a success.
Yeah,
Later, it turned out that due to a change of calculation methods, the aircraft was not fully refueled at the airport. Instead of the planned 16 tons, it only received 4.
yep,
So I think such a success deserves a like. Fast
definitely.
flights and soft landings to you. And always make sure you have enough fuel in your tanks.
So yeah, that is the story of the Boeing 767. Thank you guys so much for watching this video with me. If you like this video, please leave a like. Comment down below what you think of the Boeing 767. Have you flown it? What is your opinion of it? Do you love it? Let me know in the comments. And subscribe for more videos, as I will have more aviation content ready for you guys. I've got another vlog on the way. I've got some plane spotting videos on the way. So stay tuned for it all. I love you guys. Take care.